Welcome back to the Wizard Weekly, where we talk about everything in gaming. What have you guys been playing in these last few days? Go ahead and let me know, because I can guarantee that it hasn't been the game of Concord. Even a month ago, if I asked that question, most of you guys probably wouldn't be saying Concord. Nobody was playing that shit at all. The only people that were actually playing and really feeding into that game were of the 69 folks that were able to get the platinum achievement before the game got taken offline. Like, that is a beautiful outcome. Anyways, I don't need to keep swinging the bat at a dead camel and just, beat to the ground the idea that Concord was a really poor performing game. One of, if not, well, actually it is the worst to date, worst performing game that PlayStation has ever put out. But as they say, time usually heals all wounds. For this really particular instance, they can say that time just makes them even worse, because even more details are coming to light within Concord's whole development and whole ideals behind the PlayStation brand that unfortunately, Sony bought into this game for way too much money and way too much ambition. It is just a really sad outcome. If you somehow don't know, a few weeks ago, PlayStation released a $40 hero shooter title that was supposed to be the future of the platform, and it was developed by Firewalk Studios, one of PlayStation's recently purchased subsidiaries, and upon its PlayStation and PC release, it was rumored to sell only around 25,000 copies total, and having a peak player base of over like 600 players at one time. Like, that is for PlayStation. Like, remember, this is PlayStation, one of the most household names when it comes to gaming itself, the whole platform, the whole hobby itself. 600 players, 25,000 copies. It was disastrous. And less than 2 weeks after its initial release, they took the game offline, and it was just downhill from there. We just had the report that the head of the game, Ryan Ellis, recently stood down from his position to go back to a support role following the aftermath of this disaster. Oh my bad, I forgot to play the video of this disastrous product. It was bad, man. And not just that, as you can see, the game for $40, you're not getting anything spectacular out of this game. Like, this is just another reskin of a Valorant, a CSGO type of game that you can play on other hardware and even on the PlayStation 5 for free. So the fact that they thought they could charge $40 for this title and really make it the future and put all their eggs in the basket of this game was crazy. But like I said, time doesn't heal all wounds, because it was recently revealed by Colin Moriarty, a longtime podcaster over on the Sacred Symbols podcast on YouTube and Patreon, that he recently reached out to one of the devs over at Firewalk Studios to shed some more, behind the scenes light on what really was going on during this development. Because to our perspective, it's just hard to believe that PlayStation thought that this game would perform anywhere near the heights that they projected to do. And obviously this is only a 9-minute clip of the entire hour plus long podcast, but this clip speaks a lot of volume, because Moriarty claims that Concord costed over $400 million to develop. Because you got to take into account, before Sony purchased Firewalk Studios ahead of its Concord release, the game had already been in development for years prior to this, and at that point it costed already $200 million on the studio. And then once the studio decided to share the game in its alpha state to Sony spent another $200 million on the game for outsourcing it and getting it to a better state that they thought it would be able to become a smash hit that they intended, and even referred the game internally as a Star Wars type of title that they could, draw back on and really be the future of PlayStation IP. Like, they put a lot of eggs to this basket. It's crazy. And I've seen criticism on the internet for people saying that $400 million is there's just no way they spent that much. But I gotta take you guys back to the Insomniac leak from later last year, and when we unfortunately learned that Insomniac's Spider-Man game that was published by Sony costed a whopping $300 million. $220 on the game itself, but with breaking the money down with, obviously you can see creative art service groups and support teams, it costed over $200 million for the sequel title. And this is to date Sony's biggest budget that they ever spent on a title that they released, which is insane to even think about, because we already know that Sony has a bunch of other pipeline titles down the line, and we already know about the live service plan to release even more live service games in the future if that's not been halted by this performance. So the fact that they're spending this much money and gambling this much on their IPs, and the fact that a flop this hard could be a reality that they're not obviously taken seriously is just wild to think about. Now, what the dev also told Moriarty is that Concord was the sacred idea from Herman Hulst, which is one of the co-CEOs over at PlayStation, and he claims that the environment was so toxic that you couldn't say anything bad about the game because the higher execs just had that much tunnel vision on this title to making it see the light of day that even the people that actually worked on the game couldn't say or, recommend serious changes within it, even when the devs disagree with the direction that the game was going. So, wow. So $400 million, false positive work environment, and just overall dumb decision making on the execs of this game, which sets a really weird precedent for a publisher that's been known to give us so many cool IPs in the past. And even now, we still got Astrobot that did amazing and is doing amazing, but just to have this in the background is just distasteful. Plus, this was Firewalk Studios' first title ever published, and we have no idea how this can, taint their reputation going forward, even though it's not entirely, their fault for all this happening. So hopefully this time, when I say time will heal all wounds, I can actually mean it and not just be talking, because the future of Sony and online multiplayers is looking pretty bleak as of right now. Moving on to some really positive news this time, we got the announcement by RGG Studios of the next Yakuza title. This time a spin-off title based on one of the best characters in the Yakuza franchise, being Goro Majima, this time with the title of Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Now, based on this trailer and its obvious title name, it doesn't really take much to understand the direction that this title is going. Now, if you don't know, the Yakuza series follows the mob-like crime organization that followed the main character of Kiryu Kazuma, and is even going to get an Amazon Studios adaptation later in November, I believe. I can't remember. But there's like 8 Yakuza games and a bunch of other spin-offs, and this is the next spin-off based on one of the second main character of the franchise of Goro Majima, a wild and unpredictable wild card when compared to Kiryu, and I'm looking forward to this game. Not just because this game here looks amazing, but I'm already in the process of beating all the Yakuza games. I've played Yakuza 0 because you guys already know in my old videos I used to use those OSTs in there, and I just played Yakuza Kiwami. As you can see, just played this game yesterday, and it's amazing. It's annoying because sometimes they have pistols and your bare hand is mostly bare knuckle fighting in the game. Then when I just pull out fucking pistols and shotgun, that gets annoying as hell, but it's still an amazing game. And like I said, there's like 7 or 8 of them, so I got a long ways to go before I'm actually caught up before the series comes out in October. But this spin-off title is gonna be really fun. Like I said, Majima is a crazy bastard, and as you can obviously see in the combat that they showcase, it's gonna be really reflected in how you can play as him. And the change of setting that the games usually take place in the inner city of Japan to be in the middle of the ocean on a ship, it's a little different, but once again, for Majima, if you know this character, he is unpredictable as hell, and this goes right along with who he is as a person. Oddly enough, they're also gonna have, where is he? Samoa Joe in this, the wrestler. I don't know the backstory behind that or how that came to be, so I hope that's gonna be a pretty cool addition to the game. But there's also talk of how it seems like Majima has like this superhuman abilities, like see how he had like clones, and like see here he was fighting with a bunch of clones and stuff. So there's been a bunch of talk about that, but again, it's just a video game, and the Yakuza series never fails to show you that this is just a fictional world, and I'm looking forward to being able to kick ass with my guy Majima, because the last time that I played him so far was in Yakuza 0. And yeah, the game is out on the 28th on all platforms, even last generation, and at $59.99, so there's that. And that's all I got for today, man. I'll see y'all on the next one.